Hey YouTubers, me again, coming to you live from underneath my BMW Z3. We're going to change the transmission filter today. This is the pan, and I'll get you a little close-up shot of the pan because it says, I should probably get my glasses so I can actually read it, but it basically says lifetime service-free transmission. What's a lifetime? Life in prison, I believe, is 54 years. So if we translate that into miles, or thousands, tenths of thousands of miles, that would be 54,000 miles. I read in a service manual that we're supposed to change it at 100,000 miles. So maybe lifetime is 100,000 miles. But this car is right at 95 or 96,000. And the transmission is starting to act a little wonky. If I let it sit for any length of time, it is starting to not want to go into reverse. It will go, but it'll take a few seconds, which is enough to scare you. When you put it into reverse, nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden it'll slowly just ease its way into reverse. And I don't rev it or anything. I just let it sit there for a second, and she'll start to move. So I'm like, okay, she's getting a little, the fluid's probably losing viscosity a little bit, or she's getting dirty, the filter's getting clogged. And so it's time to change it. We're going to change her at 100,000 or 95,000 in this case. I think I've seen people change them at 60, but actually nowadays with the new fluids it should be, I think it's 100. I know we had a Durango that was right at 100. We changed it at 130, but it was starting to act a little wonky too. But amazingly enough, sometimes when you do the service, it will fix a slipping transmission because sometimes the filter's just clogged up and it just can't create enough pressure anymore, or the viscosity of the fluid gets just so broken down over time and just contaminated with whatever, okay? But we're going to go ahead and do it. A lot of people are like, no, don't do it, you're going to ruin your transmission. I don't recommend changing all the fluid. Definitely not. I've seen that happen, and that has ruined transmission because it flushes all the crap out and the dirt's the only thing holding it together. But in this case, I might learn a hard lesson, I don't know, I doubt it. But I'm just going to go ahead. She's right at 95,000. This is probably very, very clean inside. And we're only going to change the amount of fluid that we lose when we change the filter. So we're just going to open it up. Change. Some people recommend changing this little reservoir up front here. I am not going to do that. I'm going to leave that alone. And I'm just going to change the filter, what fluid we lose, replace that. And it's fun on this one to replace the fluid. It's not like the old days where you had a little dipstick, you could just put stuff down in there. Nope, this is a whole different game. This is more like a standard transmission. But this, by the way, is the automatic Z3. So this is going to be an automatic filter, automatic transmission filter change. So, enough talking, let's get started. Okay, just so you can know what I was talking about, it says no oil change or top off necessary. Lifetime transmission oil fill. In case of repair, use only BMW oil part number 832020, basically Dextron 3, which is what we've got. Other fluids will cause non-warrantable transmission damage. I don't think this car's under warranty anymore. It is a 97. Pretty sure the warranties wore out anyway, but there you go. So it says it's lifetime. I'm thinking 100,000 is about as lifetime as it gets. Let me point out an important tip. Run the engine for a few minutes and shift it in and out of gear, or put it in drive, put it in reverse. Let it run for a few minutes to get all the fluid up into the pump and get the fluid warmed up a little bit, because you don't want, like this car's been sitting for, about a week, I guess, and things will drain out somewhat. So I wanted to run it for a few minutes just to get everything, make sure the pump is full, make sure the fluid has run through all the different veins and doodads that it's got to run through. So run it, put it in reverse, let it run for a couple minutes in reverse, put it in drive. You could drive it previously if you'd want to. That's not a bad idea either. I already had it up on the lift, so I'm not going to take it back off the lift and drive it around. But I did put it in reverse and forward and what have you, and let it sit there to run some fluid through the transmission before we start, because I want as much in the transmission as possible, so when we drain the oil and refill it, we still have some stuff in the system. So take this drain plug off. This is a really funky system. We have a drain plug here, and on the other side that you can't see right now is where the fill plug is, and it ain't a whole lot different in height. The drain plug is, the fill plug's probably about halfway up the pan, Personally, I think that's weird, but I'm not going to argue with BMW's ingenuity because these are great cars. So I've got this loosened up. Great thing about drain plugs, if they're not cross-threaded, they tend to come right off once you break them loose. I take my glove off because you know what's going to happen, right? It's going to take an oil bath as soon as I pull this plug out. So, how long? This is the question, how long is the plug? Some cars have really short ones, some cars have really long ones. This one is kind of short, about ½ inch long, I'd say, or 12 millimeters since we're dealing with a BMW and it's metric. So that's that. There's your drain plug. That fluid honestly doesn't look that good. So I'm kind of glad we're doing this because it's not bright red anymore. It looks a little dirty. So that's making me feel pretty comfortable with what we're doing. Makes me happy that I'm getting to it now. You know, I expected to see bright red. I remember one other video I did a Cadillac, and that car was so clean. The fluid looked like brand new. The pan didn't have an ounce of crud in it. No silt, no nothing. It was perfect. Either somebody just recently did one, or that transmission just runs very, very clean. This would hopefully be the same way, except for this fluid is not looking as happy as I would like it to be. But I'm going to go ahead and just keep letting her drain. Once we get her drained, I'm going to take this exhaust bracket. Well, I don't have to take that one off, I guess. It's going to a little bit be in the way. I might take the bracket off altogether. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I kind of like to get things out of the way. You don't have to move this bracket, but I'm going to, just because it's a little bit in the way. So we're going to take this bolt, and these two bolts and get that bracket right out of the way. And I guess I can go ahead and do that now. I'm kind of stuck in the old days when I used to use air tools, and air tools would blow fluid everywhere if you used them while you were draining. But I forgot. I'm using electric tools now, and they don't do that. So let's go ahead and start pulling these brackets out of here. These are all 13 millimeters. So we're going to go ahead and start with this one. Oh, and that's a nut and bolt, so that's great. That one is not. That one came right out. Alright, why they used a nut and bolt, I don't know. While I go fetch my wrench to make sure this happens, I'm going to go ahead and put this drain plug back in. I do like transmissions with drain plugs. It makes this job so much easier. A lot of the American-made stuff, or the earlier stuff, I mean, did not come with a drain plug. And let me tell you a little story about messes, making a mess. When you have a drain plug, you get to drain it, and then you don't have to make such a big mess. Now, when I tighten this, I'm not going to sock it up real tight. I'm going to just give it a little, my arm is real straight, I'm not pulling on it super hard, just give it a little tap, and that's it. Set it in place. You don't want to over tighten this, because you're only, there's probably a nut cert of some sort in there, but you don't want to over tighten a drain plug, because you'll just cause yourself problems you don't need. But this is all loose now. Again, over-engineered. BMW is, very over-engineered. But, if you want a dependable car, over-engineering is, I guess, preferred? I don't know. I tend to try to keep things simple, but I get it. They put they sandwich this piece in here, so you're not, it's just over-engineered. But let's go ahead and get this, that wrench, and we'll get that out of there. Again, not 100% necessary to take these out of here, but I'm going to one, to help you to see better what's going on, and two, just for ease, of the service. One of them's going to be a little bit of a stickler. I hate working on cars when it's kind of cold out because your fingers get a little bit nippy, and you know, I've been wearing gloves as much as possible, but sometimes, like in here, whoops, drop that nut, or bolt I should say, you know, you just can't. And then I went ahead and was slicing beets of all things yesterday and cut my finger, so my index finger's kind of out of commission. But it seems the middle finger works better for this particular job anyway, but there's not going to be any gloves. So fingers get cold, fingers get cold. Bigger stuff you can do with gloves on. This small stuff, nope, no go. Charlie Brown. Does anybody even know who Charlie Brown is anymore? Probably not. Okay, now the only other thing I can see is, and it's not even in the way, is the cable, the shift cable. The shift cable is close, and it's actually only going to get in the way when we try to refill this bad boy. But otherwise, it's not going to be an issue. We could move it, but even as simple as I try to make things, there's no point. So now we're just going to have the fun, arduous task of zinging all of these bolts. I don't know, there's a lot of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 bolts. I forget where I started over here, but so 19 or 20 bolts. Quite a few. So we're just going to, they're 10 millimeters, try that in English, 10 millimeters, I believe. Let me see. Oh yeah, 10 millis. All right, so I'm just going to zing these off. You can watch. I'm just going to fast forward it and play a little music, but I'm going to zing them off of here. I've got all the bolts but 2 out. These are loose. They're about halfway out, but they're still there. And I'm going to show you exactly why I'm going to do that. Don't want to damage that pan, whatever we do. So I'm going to give her a couple of wraps with a rubber mallet, see if that works. That thing is, there we go. Sounded solid hitting me every other way. Now, I got her drooping a little bit. She's hanging off those caps I left in there. And I might lose a little fluid, so I'm going to go ahead and put the pan back under it. But gasket ripped. It's a good thing I got another one. And I'm going to take those last 2 bolts out and drop the pan. As you can see, it's still dripping a little bit, so we're going to let her finish dripping. I have made minimal mess, thank God. I've got maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 little tiny drips that actually hit the floor probably from when I pulled the pan down and tipped the pan a little bit. The pan still has some in it, so I'm going to pull this out and I'll dump the rest into here, so we'll get a bunch of clean fluid. The fluid doesn't look good, but the pan doesn't look too bad, and I'll show you that in a second. So let's let this drip for a minute, and then we'll show you the pan. Right about here, there are 2 13 millimeters that you have to take out for the filter. And I gotta find some place I can put it that's nice and clean. those two out. Put them someplace nice and clean-ish. I'm going to have to take the old gloves off for this, I think, because we're about to get messy. I don't really feel like having to wash my gloves. Alright. This is going to be in the way, but they're wires, so that we should be able to move them slightly out of the way there. Anyway, this should just... Oops, we've got some wires. Nope, that's not kind of attached. Okay, so we're just going to kind of gently... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I missed one. There's one back here. I started to pull on it a little bit, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's some Ting Wong here. You know that Chinese guy, some Ting Wong? Yeah, him. He seems to visit my house quite often. We've become good friends. There we go. But the good thing is he usually warns me and says, hey, I'm here. And you look for something else. And I'm like, oh, great. Okay. So, he can be your friend. Who you mean? Some Ting Wong. My Chinese friend. Yeah, that's him. So, now we got a little bit of wiggle room. There's a gasket. I'll show you on the... and there's lots of fluid coming out now. Yeehaw. Oh, that was my glove that I'm trying to wipe my hands with. Now, I don't want to let that drain too much. So I'm going to get the other gasket. I'm going to put it into place. And get one of those bolts. And get it started. And we can let the filter fill up with fluid if we need to. Making sure these bolts are nice and clean. Started. Man, it just doesn't feel good when your fingers are cold. And you gotta turn bolts like that. I need to go back to Florida. I'm originally from Florida. And I moved up here because we thought it'd be nice to live in the mountains. And it is kind of nice living in the mountains. But, whew, it gets a little nippy up here. Not like it does. I got a fan, friend, whatever you want to call him, a subscriber, one of my first ever, that he lives in Colorado. And he always laughs when I say it's cold because to him, this 57-degree day today isn't cold. Now there is a torque spec on these bolts, and I believe... I'm not going to tell you because I'm going to go double check before I tell you. The torque spec on this is 44 inch-pounds. So I've got this set at 44. And there we are already there. That ratchet of mine, I'm already past here, is 35 foot-pounds. And so even going really easy like I did, it's beyond the 44 inch-pounds that I was supposed to put these, so that's good to go, and then some. And I will keep on keeping on with that. Now I've got to clean up the pan, get this gasket off of here. Well, hopefully it'll come off nice and easy. And I'm going to spare you all of that while I pull all this gasket material off. As you can see, this pan is pretty darn clean. The only place I'm seeing anything is on the magnet, and there is quite a bit of sludge on the magnet. So there is some clutch material in this. I'm going to go ahead and pull that magnet out if it'll let me. There we go. And yeah, it's got quite a bit on it. So she's not perfect, but she's not horrible either. I mean, she does have 95 or 6,000 miles on her, you know. And I don't exactly drive this car grandma around, if you know what I mean. Now, here's where opinions vary. I like to put a thin coat of RTV on the pan just to help things to stick. Although this RTV isn't cooperating, I'm going to have to clear the tip, clear the nozzle, clear the deck. Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to have to do something because it don't want to come out. And I can feel that it's still soft in there. Well, let's figure something out here. Here's another helpful hint. Your hand will pick up dust and dirt better than anything else. So anytime you've got a surface that you want to make sure you don't have any grit on it, just run your hand across it and you'll feel it and it'll stick to your hand and then you can wipe it off. So there's a little tip there for you. Now my hands are not exactly clean, but there's nothing wet on them at the moment. So I am just going to smear a little bit on here. Not a lot. Just a thin coat. And really you only have to have it on the higher part of the rail. You'll see, as you can see, this little higher part. Anywhere else is kind of the waste because that's the only area. It should squash the gasket to all the areas, but I just need it to stick. So it doesn't move around while we're putting things in. Unlike a lot of American cars, at least earlier ones, the bolts don't appear to go through into the oil galley, so we don't have to put Permatex, or I call it Permatex or RTV, on the bolts. On my Gremlin project, if you watch that, I did have to put RTV on some of the bolts because they went, and that was the oil pan, they went through the pan and into the oil section of the engine, and so it was causing leaks, oddly enough. So now you'll notice this is a very thin coat. And you don't have to be super neat about it. I mean, if you get a little bit on the outside edge, it's not the end of the world. But, you know, if you want it to look nice, you know, in case somebody goes crawling under your car to steal your catalytic converter, you know, they'll see that it's a nice, neat job. Or you can do what I did and just don't have a catalytic converter. That way, if they go to steal it, well, they're out of luck. You know, when your car gets so old, catalytic converters don't do nothing but cause trouble. But if you care about our environment, you may want to hang on to yours. I'm not really sure how much they're helping since they've got like plutonium or some craziness inside of them. So when you're done using them, they got to go somewhere. You know, and sometimes they get thrown into junkyards, they get buried, and that can't be good for the environment. So I'm not really sure what's right and what's wrong when it comes to that sort of thing, but the EPA says you should have one so that you can't put zinc in your oil and destroy your engine. It's a great idea. Anyhow, I've had this gasket sitting flat on a surface for actually a couple of weeks now while I was waiting to get to this job. And so now we got to kind of look at it and figure out where's the flat spot. There it is. And then we're just going to set this bad boy in place. There we go. Move it around until the holes line up. Had a guy tell me that I can't sing. And my reply was, well, that's why I do car videos. If I could sing, I'd do music videos, right? Right. Okay. Now, do I need to put any juice, if you will, on this top of the gasket? I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to explain why. When I was cleaning up the gasket on the transmission, I can't get to it as well as I did here. And so there's still tiny bits of residue left on the gasket. I mean, gasket left on the actual, what do you call it? The transmission. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. So, by putting a little bit of goo, and it's going to dry very slowly because it's cold here. It's like 50-something degrees, which I know for you northern people, you're like, 50-something degrees? That's warm. That's summer weather, yeah. But my point is, this RTV is going to dry very slowly, so we don't really have to worry about being in a hurry. I've already got the transmission wiped down and cleaned up as best I can get it. I usually like to get in on a 3M wheel and clean things up real nice, but again, there's very limited space on this car. And I had somebody make a comment on my last video on this car, and they're like, good luck working on that car. And they're not wrong. She's a bit tight. She is not made for those of large hands, shall we say, or for those of large stature, for that matter. She's just not a big, roomy car. She tends to be on the smaller side of things, you know. So if you're a big person or have big hands, you may not want to do these jobs, because they're just, leave it to somebody smaller in stature, you know. Get your wife out here. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, I'm going to finish this up, and we'll get her on the car. Okie dokie. We're going to go ahead and set the pan into place and get a couple of bolts started here. We'll start with the easiest ones to get to, I reckon. Of course, I didn't put my glasses on, so I can't see nothing. You get one or two in there, and that'll hold it up for you. There you go. I think that one's up there. And let's see if I can get this old girl in here. Maybe not. There we go. First two are the hardest. After that, it's not so bad. I'm just going to let it drop. And then we're going to just zing the rest of them in. I don't know if I can... There's shoulder bolts, which is wonderful. But I don't want to just zing them in with the ratchet, because that can cause cross-threading. And I mean, I'm sure if you're in a hurry and you're a master mechanic and you want to try to do things in a hurry, yeah, you could do that. But I'm none of the above. Well, depends what you consider a master mechanic, I reckon, but I'm more of a backyard mechanic. I've had some formal training, but I've learned way more from doing myself. And I'm just going to thread them in by hand until I got them all started, and then I'm going to zing them all in. Now, these are supposed to be, remember I told you the thingamabobby was, see, I don't like the way that one feels, see? That one was 44 inch-pounds. I'm going to have to get my glasses on that one, because I think my gasket may have slipped. I don't really see how, but it appears to have possibly slipped. Something you have to be very careful of. Now, it's actually in place, but it's slightly to one corner. There we go. There we go. Now let's see if this one fixed itself. Fixed itself. So, how many did we say we had? 10, 12, 15, 250? I don't know. I don't remember. A few. So we're just going to get a few of them started. We're going to get them all started, actually. So, I'll stop talking now and That way we can fast forward some of this. My shoulders are burning, ow. My shoulders are burning now. My shoulders are burning, ow. Shoulders are burning now. And I still see something leaking. That's not good. Well, we got to torque this. I got to get the torque wrench. These are got to be torqued to 9 foot-pounds. The other was 44 inch-pounds. This is going to be 9 foot-pounds, which honestly is not very much. Now, according to the internet, it says to tighten these to 9 foot-pounds. I'm not going to do that because I start to tighten them that tight, and it's way too tight, in my opinion. So, if you can see what I've got in my hand, this is a speed wrench, old school, and you don't put a lot of torque on with these. So I'm going through all these bolts, and I'm just kind of socking them up with this. I'm just going around in a circle. The proper way is probably corner to corner, but I'm just going around in a circle, and I'm just snugging these up with this. Now you're not going to get a lot of tension on this, so I'm just going to go tighten it till I'm happy. I know that's going to sound really weird, and I'll try to get an inch-pound reading for you if you're a big torque wrench guy. What I usually do is I will look at the gasket, and when the gasket starts to squeeze out, I'm done. It's as tight as I'm going to make it. And I'm seeing that now on these, so I think I'm going to, yep, the gasket's starting to squish out. You keep tightening and tightening and tightening, and you let that gasket squish out, you're going to squish it too much, and you're going to get leaks. So I'm watching all these gaskets start to squish out as I tighten the bolts, so I'm done. I'm just going to let it go like that. Now I might get under here later after it warms up. In fact, we'll do that. I'm going to go ahead and warm it up, warm the car up, take it for a little test drive after we get some fluid in it, and then we'll come back and maybe we'll snug them up some more. But now is the fun part. Now we get to fill this thing with fluid. So let's come on over here. Remember I said that the shifter cable might get in the way of this? Well, I wasn't wrong. Can't get a box end on it. I might be able to. Yeah, I can if I do that. Oh, and I was wrong about the size. It's not the same size as this one. It's a little bit smaller. So we're going to have to go get a different wrench. The drain plug was 19 millimeters. That one's considerably smaller. So I'm going to say it's probably 17. Let's see if I'm right. That's correct. It is 17 millimeters. And it's always righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Crack that baby loose. And take her out of there. This is the fill plug. The days of a transmission dipstick are over. This is how things are done nowadays. So we're going to pull this plug out of here. Look how nice and clean that is, because we just cleaned it. It's like super simple. Just going to stick this in here, like so, and squeeze. That squeezes it all up in there. And you pull it back, pull it out, and do the whole process all over again. See how it's running out? That's kind of what you want to do. So for temporarily, I'm going to go ahead and stick this plug in here just to stop the bleeding. But unfortunately I lost my little
washer that goes with it. There it is. Okay. Alright, so we're going to put this back in just to stop the bleeding. And then we're going to start it up. Stop the bleeding for a minute. I hate making a mess, and there's really no way to do this without making a mess. But I see how it started running out. Okay, well I got that plugged in there nice and loose, just enough to stop the blood. We're going to start it up and let it warm up. Now I don't have a lot of fluid left. I only bought a gallon. It said it's going to take 4 quarts, and it just took exactly 4 with whatever's left in the jug. Hopefully that'll be enough to compensate for when it warms up. So let's go ahead and start the thing. We're not done. We haven't put all the brackets and stuff on yet, but I'm going to go ahead and do all this warm up and fill before we do that, and then we'll be done. So let's go ahead and fire this puppy up. Got it running, and we'll take more fluid now. We'll just keep on putting some in. Oh boy, it took almost one other quart. So far. It's taking more than I've got. So I'm going to, well, stripping out a tiny bit. There we go. Alright. A little bit of a mess. My tool started spewing out the back end too. I don't know what happened there. There we go. She's hot and she's full. Whew, what a mess. The store was wrong, or the internet was wrong. Whoever told me that it took 4 quarts during a change. It took about 5, possibly 6. I'm going to say roughly 5. So now I'm going to snug this bad boy up. Alright. Make sure this other one's tight. Oh yeah. I guess we'll put our brackets back on. I guess I better shut it off though so the carbon monoxide doesn't kill me. Time to put the bracketry back on. And that's going to be this here. Oh, no, I need a bolt. A couple of bolts in there. Just get your hand in here for nothing. Whoop. And down one. This is not going to be fun. You can't get your hand on it and spin it at the same time. And hold the bracket at the same time. I have 3 hands. Where did that little hole go? Where did it go? They sure didn't leave a lot of room for stuff. That's for damn sure. And I'm thinking they could have used a shorter bolt for this. And then again, maybe they did, and I'm grabbing the wrong bolt. That's a possibility. I'm starting to think that's the case because, no, but here's the other one. I think I frustrated it. That's probably the problem. Bolt number 2. It was just not easy. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's that one. I don't think this one's going to do though. Yep, there it goes. Golly. Come on. Can't get my hand in there. Jeez, Louise. Yep. I guess I thank God for not having big nicks. You know, when you're a guy, every guy wants to be a big monster, right? They want to be intimidating. They want to look like Dwayne Johnson, right? Big guy. But when it comes to working on cars, that maybe ain't the best idea. I think it's Goldberg. I don't know if you know who Bill Goldberg is. I've had the pleasure of meeting the man. He's a very super cool guy. I met him at a gym, actually not in a car atmosphere, but he is a huge, huge car fan. And so him being a car guy, I'm a big fan of his. I'm not really a big fan of wrestling, but I'm a big fan of his because he's a good guy. He likes cars, and he's a big guy. So I can't imagine being that big of a guy and having to work on stuff. Of course, he's probably got the money, he could pay people to work on it. Now I got to get this silly bracket in here. And it's not that easy because it's got to go. The exhaust is nice and warm. Ow! Yep, very warm. Ow. Come on, baby. Oh, I got that thing out of there. Almost there. Whew. Goes over here. Oh, there we go. Maybe if I put it in the right spot, it would be okay. And I think if I do that, then we got to put this little humdinger in there. And she goes like so. That's hot. Well, that's how it goes. There we go. Alright, and then it's a washer and a nut. So we'll put that in there. And I'll tell you what, my shoulders are singing. They're just a singing. Golly. I don't know why. And then there's a little clip here for your wiring so it doesn't get all caught up and trapped and burned up and broken. And then we have this neat little shimmy thingy that we can set that in place. And again, this is so way overkill because I should have put those marks for a while. But way overkill. What I'm going to do though is before I tighten those up, is I'm going to tighten this up. I'm going to push this up with my thumb like so where it used to be. Oh wait, nope, almost forgot something. This has a bolt. Am I missing some lighting here? There we go. Now you can see. This goes through here and clamps it. So let's do that first. Okay. Almost forgot that part. So let's zing that in there. Where'd my zinger go? I guess I put it away already. Started to get like my wife put things away before I'm done with them. Alright, all of these are 12 millimeters, as we said before. So that's nice and snug now. There we go. That should just go right in like butter. Oh. Boy, that's tight. The battery in my ratchet's starting to die, and when that happens, it doesn't tighten very right. So we'll just snuggle these up a little bit on my hand. This is good and tight. Gut and tight, the German word for BMWs, they call it Guten tight. It's a torque spec. Alright. Well, I do believe we're done. What do I do? It's a little bit late tonight to be taking it for a rip, so I'm going to wait till morning. So for you, let's just hang out and we'll take a test drive in the morning.
Isn't it amazing how time flies? Woo! It's like days later. Everything worked out okay. Everything's looking good. Now I got the wheels off her because the wheels are heading down to get some new rubber put on there. Got to get some new sneakers for them every once in a while. With the transmission working great, we're going to need new sneakers, right? Because we're hard on these things. I like to take them corners a little too fast. But I might do a little segment on tires, because with this particular car especially, there's some tricks you need to know, because before I learned this trick, it cost me some money. So I'm going to teach you the trick to save you some money in the future. But anyway, if you're going to do a transmission service, I hope you enjoyed this video. If it helped you out, please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends. And I think there's other stuff you can do if you want to support the channel. You can, I forget, there's stuff though. There's all sorts of little stuff. I got to learn that stuff myself. But if you want to support the channel, there are ways to do so. Look up YouTube. It'll tell you how. I guess I better learn myself so I can tell you. But anyway, thank you for watching. Please subscribe. See ya!